So the other day I went and saw The Black Phone 2 in theaters, and it sucked really bad. But I had never seen The Black Phone 1, so I bought it. And then I watched it after watching The Black Phone 2, and it also kind of sucked. And I mean, from a cinematography standpoint, I think that that is the least of this movie's problems. The cinematography throughout the movies, both of them, were really fucking good. The way certain scenes were shot, the way that they did certain effects, I loved it. The problem is just about everything else. I don't really know where to start with things that I hated about this movie, but I think the best place to start would probably be the dialogue. Like I said, I watched The Black Phone 2 first, and really the dialogue in it made me honestly want to shoot myself in the middle of the theater. I am not joking. I could not stand it, and I wanted to walk out just because of the way that characters talked to each other and interacted with each other. It just made me want to blow my brains out. Whoever did the cinematography needs a raise, and whoever made the script needs to be fired on the spot. Like, the difference in quality with the script writing and the actual cinematography itself blew my mind. I don't know how that happened. And just so you know, whenever I'm complaining about these things, I am complaining about it for both movies. Just about everything in this video that I have a complaint with is a problem in both movies. Like, for example, the cinematography is great in both movies, but the script is complete dog shit in both movies. Like, so I'll actually just go fucking look it up. Did they hire the same script writer for both movies? Because if they did, so I just looked it up, and apparently they did hire the same script writer for both movies. I guess I can't say I'm surprised. Granted, I have more problems than just this throughout the movie, but one of the big things, and I know maybe this will be hypocritical, I cuss a lot. But this movie cusses excessively and for no reason. Like, truly no reason. There is no reason throughout this movie why any of the kids and stuff cuss as much as they do. They it seems more like whoever wrote the script just wrote the script to make it almost funny on some accounts, but whenever it's time to be serious, it's hard to take seriously because everything else is so stupid. Like, here, I'll give you an example of this.
Trust me, he could kick the shit out of either of you blindfolded.
When?
Because obviously I'm the grabber, you dumb fucking fart knockers.
Gwendolyn!
It would seem as though I can't find any more of these fucking clips on YouTube, so fuckity fuck me, I guess. Okay, I'm sorry, that was unnecessary. But either way, you get the point. That's kind of how the dialogue for the movie goes. And that was for the Black Phone 1, but in the Black Phone 2, whenever they meet like the receptionist or whatever, the female receptionist and Gwen get into this altercation, this verbal altercation, because the lady won't give Gwen the information that she wants. And completely unwarranted and for no reason, Gwen goes, "But you've seen some fucking weird shit around here, haven't you?" And the lady's like, "Have you always had such a foul mouth?" Because it's a church camp, right? And so, you know, churchgoers and stuff like that probably wouldn't want you to, you know. And then the receptionist says that, like, "Have you always had such a foul mouth?" And it ends with Gwen calling her a cunt or a twat or something. And whenever they walk away, the lady's like, "I'll pray for you tonight," in like a angry kind of almost backhanded tone. But it's like, you already know whenever a movie has to throw in cunt or twat, whichever one it was, I forget. If they're throwing that in trying to be, you know, funny, the movie's probably trying too hard to be funny and edgy. And that's kind of how it felt every single time. Like, even in the clip that I just showed you, it kind of felt like the movie was just trying to be edgy for some reason or get a laugh for some reason. And it doesn't need that. It really doesn't. And it's really sad because it's the entire movie. The entire movie is just that kind of dialogue, except for in the first movie when Finn is actually down with the grabber. All of the dialogue between Finn and the grabber in the first movie is fine. And Finn and the ghosts. Finn and the ghost, Finn and the grabber, and all of that is fine But the second that any tertiary characters get introduced, it's like all they want to do is cuss or try and be funny or try and be too serious. It kind of just kills both movies for me. Also, the one character that they bring with them to the camp in the second movie, I forget his name, but he seems to be like the comic relief character, and he does a horrible job at it. Because, like every other bit of dialogue in this movie that's not Finn and the Grabber's dialogue in the first one, every time he opens his mouth, I want to open my mouth and put a gun in it. Like, the jokes don't need to be there. You don't need a comic relief character in this movie, because in this movie, unlike some other movies, the comic relief draws away from the actual horrors of the movie, because in the second movie, you spend a good half of the movie doing nothing. Like almost nothing happens in the first half of the movie except for world building, but it's mostly just like flashback sequences to the first movie anyways. But think of it this way. I watched the second movie first, and whenever I watched the first movie, I felt like I didn't really have to watch half of the first movie because exact scenes were just taken from the first movie and put into the second movie. Like flashback sequences are obviously going to be like, they're flashback sequences. I'm not going to fault them. But in the first movie, one of the parts towards the beginning of it was one of Finn's friends getting into a fight and he beats a guy. And literal exact pieces of dialogue from that whole sequence are put into the second movie. Because then Finn is then in a fight in the second movie and uses the same dialogue that his friend used in the first movie when asked why he beat him up so much.
But that wouldn't draw no blood. In a situation like that, the more blood, the better. For the crowd,
And that scene is from the first movie. And in the second movie, the movie also, in the very beginning portions of it, starts with Finn getting into a fight, like I said. And then afterwards, when his sister is asking him why he did that, he says the new guy was talking about how he was the one who killed the Grabber and he had to beat him up and draw blood for the crowd. Like basically the exact same thing. Like what the fuck, movie? Like that is a little bit more than a wink wink nudge nudge. That is just ripping the script from the first movie and putting it into the second movie. I think that The Black Phone 2 is just too new of a movie to find these clips. But whenever you watch the movie for yourself, if you watch the movie for yourself, you'll know what I mean. I just can't get the clips from the second movie to show you right now because they're not out. And even just the main plot of the movie is the exact same copy paste. Yeah, it's a different location and plays out slightly differently, but if you wanted a 5-10 word summary of the movie, ghosts help Finney kill the Grabber. The end. That's literally it. The ghosts in this movie help Finney find the bodies. Actually, not even Finney. Finney's not even the main character in this movie, it seems. It seems like Gwen is, but Gwen is just not as good of a main character because she's a shitty person. And I didn't want to root for her throughout the entire movie because she just seemed like a shitty person. And I get that she went through a lot as a child. Like in the movie, it expressly shows that her father beat her. And that's fair enough. But at the same time, throughout the entire movie, she just kind of seemed like an asshole. Like with the scene I was describing earlier where she starts cussing at the receptionist, she seems like a shit person. None of the verbal altercations that she give are really warranted. And she goes out of her way to be an ass. Like towards the end of the movie at the climax, when the dad shows up, she starts berating Finney. Basically, like the way that it goes kind of sounds like this to dumb it down because I don't remember the dialogue. It kind of seems like she is saying, Finney, stop being a pussy. All of this stuff happened so long ago and you're trying to cope with it by smoking weed. You're just coping with it. Just stop being a pussy and help me kill the Grabber. Really? Really? That's what you want to say is after after your brother, not even just a kid, your brother, after your brother was kidnapped by the Grabber and held there And you don't know what the fuck went on there. You don't know if he was tortured, beaten, could have been fucking, sexually assaulted or worse. You don't fucking know. But you're going to tell him to stop being a pussy. He's smoking weed. Smoking weed is still a cope in a lot of cases, but he could be drunk all the time or doing heroin or whatever. If he's smoking a little bit of weed to try and help cope with, the trauma of that, I don't think that's a fucking horrible thing. Like maybe it's not the best thing he could do, but still, you're kind of just telling somebody who was kidnapped and abused in ways that you don't even know to stop being a pussy. Keep in mind, though, that this is after the grabber has attempted to kill Gwen multiple times. She's just not afraid of this. Like, Finney, I know I almost died, but like, you stop being a pussy, okay? She's just unaffected by any of this, I guess. I guess that's how that works. So in the second movie, whenever the characters are on ice, there are 2 times where the characters go into the water. And both times, neither character seems affected by the water. They are on a sheet of ice that's thick enough, because I don't even know. The ice seems to change thickness depending on what they want from the movie. But we will say that the ice is thick enough to hold their fucking bulldozer, right? So it's pretty damn thick. And you're telling me that these characters can go into that water, come out, and they're fine, basically. Hypothermia just ain't got shit on them. They have really insulated jackets, I guess. And all I'm saying is that I want to see one of those videos where it's like doctor reacts to or expert reacts to, something like that, because I feel like I'm going crazy. I really don't think that these people were taken care of properly, and the severity of how fast hypothermia kicks in and how deadly it is without proper medical attention is just, I feel like that's just not given enough like emphasis in this movie. Like they just don't care about this. And believe it or not, those aren't even my biggest gripes. My biggest gripes are these. For one, the story itself isn't really explained too much. Like why they're in the mountains, why he killed people up in the mountains, what this has to do with the grabber anyways, because in the movie they find out that the grabber is just a dude who worked at this camp, and apparently he killed 3 kids. Okay, why did he kill 3 kids up in the mountains, like however many years before he started kidnapping kids? And this brings me to my second point is I don't even think that the writers knew why all of this happened. And what I mean by that is in both movies, in the title screens, it says based off of a short story. And the first movie was indeed based off of the short story. There's a bunch of stuff that I don't like that they added that wasn't in the short story, but the short story is kind of short and condensed, so they have to add some filler somewhere. But the second movie shouldn't exist because it's not based off of the short story. The short story ends, as long as I read the correct story, when Finney has the cable wrapped around the grabber's neck and then tells him that the phone call is for him. In the movie, he kills the grabber and then goes on his way. But that's where the short story ends. So the entire second movie is just an unneeded sequel that sucks and isn't even a part of the short story that they're basing it off of. They came up with the entire second movie on their own. Again, as long as I read the correct short story and there's no continuation of it, the second movie just shouldn't exist. And that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's nice for a movie to continue after whatever the source material is based off of. Sometimes that works. But in this movie, it really doesn't fucking work, because even the first movie was kind of just, it wasn't bad. The first movie definitely wasn't as bad as the second movie, but it was just kind of middle of the road. It wasn't the best, wasn't the worst. And when you take a movie like that people kind of hold in higher regards, where it's like they know it's not bad, but maybe they wouldn't watch it 100 times. It's not their favorite movie. But when you've already set up, it's a decent enough movie to where people don't hate it, you can't just go and release this shit. Shitty Hollywood cash grabs are shitty Hollywood cash grabs at the end of the day. So I don't know what they wanted to do with this movie because it seems really disconnected and makes no sense. But even if it wasn't, I still have one more gripe that made me want to walk out of the theater immediately upon seeing that this was a thing. And that is the grabber throughout the entire movie only ever attacks Gwen. And I was thinking to myself the entire time, oh, that's kind of cool. He's kind of like a Freddy Krueger character. He can only attack Gwen because she has the superpowers. And I am omitting the superpowers from this review because I want to forget they exist. Nowhere in the short story is there ever a mention of psychic dreams and stuff like that. So I feel like they just threw it in so that way Gwen had something to fucking do. Because if not, they were paying this actress to be a little girl who just screams all the time. That's my only opinion on that. I don't want to talk about it further. She has fucking superpowers and her mom had superpowers. But either way, she has her little superpower of whenever she goes to sleep, she gets visions, whatever. And throughout the second movie, the grabber can attack her in these visions. So within the movie itself, while I'm watching it, I'm thinking, well, the grabber can only attack Gwen, but he can physically hurt her in the real world too. And I feel like that's nice. You know, he's like a Freddy Krueger type of character. At the final scene of the movie, I'm pretty sure it's literally the very last scene of the movie, he is shown to be able to physically harm other people, not just Gwen. And I don't know if this is shitty writing or if this is, it just has to be shitty writing. What am I saying? It literally has to be shitty writing because if the grabber can harm anybody, not just Gwen, this movie lasts 5 minutes after they arrive at the camp. Literal 5 minutes. Nobody else can see the grabber. The grabber possesses lethal weaponry, but he does not ever use it on them. Like, I get that his whole shtick is, I want to make Finney suffer because he made me kill my brother. But realistically, if you are a being from hell, and as you say, you're nothing but a being full of sin in the movie, you're telling me that you don't just fucking kill everybody? I do not get it. There are so many times in this movie, like I said, 5 minutes after they get to the camp and once they all go to sleep and the first time that the grabber shows up, everybody should be dead. If he can physically harm you guys in this movie, you should all be dead and this movie shouldn't exist. That's why I'm saying the writer of this movie needs to be fired. Like the entire writing team. Because there's no way that you're like, well, in the very final scene of the movie, we're going to have the grabber physically attack everybody and Finney can also physically grab the grabber and slam his head into the ice as the final climactic scene. Anybody think that there's a problem with that? And somebody in the back raised his hand and he's like, well, why doesn't he do that throughout the full movie instead of just at the end? And you're fired. Shut up. That's how that board meeting went. And just for the sake of keeping my blood pressure down, I'm going to end this review here. Those are my thoughts on the Black Phone 1 and 2. And as for how I would rate these movies, I would give the first movie a 6 out of 10. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. There was just a few things that I didn't really like about it. And for the second movie, I will give that a 9mm through the roof of my mouth out of 10. And thank you all for watching. Have a nice night and sweet dreams.